Coming up on Mountain News this morning, the Commonwealth and many other states received bomb threats at the state capitol, which caused a stir across the nation. And we got the first look at the bills Kentucky lawmakers are considering for this session.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning, I'm Olivia Calfee. The time is 5:33 on January 4th. Now let's check in with meteorologist Shane Smith for a look at your forecast this morning. And Shane, it's a chilly start to the morning out there. And I know you mentioned a little bit of breeze. I noticed there wasn't really that frost on the cars this morning, and you said earlier that was due to the breeze out there, I guess.
Yeah, the wind. The wind is what caused that frost not to form. Even though temperatures are near freezing, to get a good frost to form, you need a calm wind. When you have the air moving over the windshields with a little bit of a breeze, it doesn't allow that frost to form as easy. So it's making it feel colder, but at least it's saving you a little time scraping the windshield this morning. And also causing a few isolated snowflakes this morning. Let's go to the satellite radar picture. And you can see overnight we had a little bit of light snow show up on the radar down around Harlan, Norton, and Wise. And in the last few hours, we've been mainly dry. There's a flurry or two trying to show up on Pinpoint Doppler this morning, especially right along Highway 80. Not a lot of this, if any, is hitting the ground, but just something to be aware of. You may see a festive flake or two this morning, especially in the higher elevations, but overall, not expecting any kind of wintry mess to cause any kind of problems. We are checking the camera network, especially in the higher elevations along Pine Mountain, to keep an eye out for that. But for right now, we are mainly dry and just cold. Air temperature right around freezing in most spots. You factor in that wind though, and it is feeling colder. Feels like temperature right now, Somerset 24, 29 in London, 32 in Hazard and Moorhead, 23 the current wind chill in Wise, 25 in Pikeville. Air temperatures today only topping out into the upper 30s as that cold front rolls through. So a chilly, windy day. Folks definitely want the heavy jacket as they head out the door, Olivia. And then the forecast for the weekend looking more soggy than wintry. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes.
Shane, thank you. Governor Andy Beshear delivered his State of the Commonwealth address last night, in which he said the state of the Commonwealth is stronger than it's ever been. Throughout the address, Beshear recognized educators, healthcare workers, and several Good Samaritans for their work over the past 4 years. And he also restated parts of his proposed budget that would offer millions more in funding areas like disaster relief, workforce development, and education.
Our competition to the north and the south are showing us the way. But this budget opportunity is our chance to make things right here in Kentucky. Let's work together to get it done in this session.
Last night was also the first time we saw Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman make a public appearance since undergoing a double mastectomy. We finally know which bills Kentucky lawmakers could consider this session. A new law prevented the posting of legislation before the session started Tuesday. This year, lawmakers will look at a wide variety of issues impacting education, crime, public health, and finances. You could even help decide what becomes law in issues that end up on the ballot. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on some of the issues legislators will tackle.
It's going to be a busy legislative session, and while early talk has been solely on the budget, once the session started Tuesday, more than 70 bills were filed in the House and more than 50 in the Senate. Senate Bill 10 would put to voters if they would like to elect the governor and the president in the same year.
So the biggest upside is a cost savings and higher turnout in a year that elects the governor, the secretary of state, and so forth. The biggest downside, of course, is you've got a much longer ballot.
There's bills to allow racing events on state highways, one to require two-person crews on trains, and one to abolish the death penalty. Last year, lawmakers approved medical marijuana, and once again, a bill has been filed to decriminalize recreational use, but only for adults.
Right. For this particular piece of legislation, we're just talking about possession of personal use quantities, which is defined in the bill as 1 ounce or less.
Dozens of bills have been filed in each chamber, but we will likely see hundreds more filed over the next several weeks. The deadlines to file bills is not until the last week of February. We could likely see more bills dealing with education, infrastructure, and spending.
Would be the Kentucky SAFE Act, the crime bill that Jared Bauman has worked on. I think that will probably get one of those ceremonial numbers.
Also on the education front is House Bill 51 that would require public schools to obtain parental approval for participation in certain questionnaires and activities. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
It has not been filed yet, but we are likely to see a constitutional amendment which would let voters decide on school choice issues. Kentucky State Police are investigating a bomb threat at the state capitol. Police say the threat came through the email at 8:30 yesterday. They evacuated the building. After an investigation, police gave the all clear. Kentucky's state capitol wasn't the only one that received a bomb threat yesterday. State capitals in at least a dozen other states were also evacuated for similar threats. The FBI is calling the threat a hoax. We are continuing to watch the political filings in Kentucky. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley filed for president yesterday in Kentucky's May primary. She joins former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and businessman Vivek Ramaswamy on Kentucky's GOP ballot so far. Frontrunner former President Donald Trump has not filed in Kentucky yet. Congressman Hal Rogers now has 3 opponents in the primary. Several incumbent Eastern Kentucky state senators and representatives have filed and have no opposition so far. Democrat Zachary Hall of Hazard filed yesterday in the 84th District for state representative. Incumbent Republican Chris Fugit is also running. The filing deadline is this Friday. Outgoing Attorney General Daniel Cameron has already figured out what his next endeavor will be. Cameron has been named the Chief Executive Officer for the nonprofit organization, the 1792 Exchange. In a release, the organization says they seek to preserve freedom by partnering with allies to steer public companies back to neutral on divisive ideological issues. Cameron will join organization president Paul Fitzpatrick in leading the charge. School safety has always been a priority for school systems. However, it is on the rise now more than ever. I'm about to show you a new technology that Perry County school officials and law enforcement are excited about. New technology that has the capability to take school safety to a whole new level. It is called a Faro scanner, something Hazard Police Department Major Zach Miller says could be a game changer.
If you set the scanner up in a room, it takes millions of points of measurement within a matter of minutes. Now you take those millions of points of measurements and you put it in what's called a point cloud or a data file.
Saying the technology can create a 3D 2-scale model of every school in Perry County. So in the event of an incident, any law enforcement official responding, familiar with the school or not, knows the school layout prior to entry.
If there's a call that says, you know, the incident's in the auditorium, well, what's the quickest way to get to the auditorium? Well, you wouldn't know unless you're familiar with it.
And Perry County School Safety Coordinator Harvey Caldwell says when Major Miller approached the school board about the implementation of the Faro scanner, he was impressed.
Being able to have a 3D model and a file of every building in our district and every police department and fire department having access to that is going to be huge in the event that there's a crisis, which we hope never occurs.
When HPD finishes its training next week, Miller says the 2 other closest scanners to our region include Bristol, Tennessee, and Nicholasville, putting Perry County schools and law enforcement officials at the forefront of school safety in the Commonwealth. A story we brought you earlier this week is getting a lot of attention. We told you that someone has been dumping dead dogs in the Daniel Boone National Forest in McCreary County. A woman we talked to says it looked like they were euthanized, frozen, then dumped. Right now, we're still working to learn more about who is responsible. Both Kentucky State Police and the Forest Service are investigating. If you know anything, you're asked to contact the U.S. Forest Service. And to see that full story, you can go to WYMT.com. A Harlan man faces charges after police found drugs on him during a traffic stop. The incident happened back on December 23rd. After police searched the car, 59-year-old Tony Halbert was in. A crystal-like substance was found in the back seat, along with a cut straw with white residue inside. Halbert was taken to the Harlan County Detention Center, but has since been released. Coming up, we'll take a look at the 13-year-old kid from Oklahoma who became the first person in the world to fully beat the original Tetris.
A chilly start to your Thursday across the mountains, but the forecast turns soggy as we head into the weekend. Details on the other side of the break.